George Soros and his minions at Media Matters decided to smear Nikki Haley in an interview that I did with her. And honestly, I've been working all weekend. I was working on a stage show, so I didn't even get a chance to respond or even check on it. I get up all day Saturday. I'm hearing this, and I'm like, oh, geez, Nikki, this is so horrible. I'm sorry. I didn't even have a chance to write to her, say I'm sorry that this happened because of the podcast we did. And I'm kicking myself. How did I not hear this as an interviewer? I should have heard this and said, wait a minute. Oh, my gosh.
And that stuff happens. Sometimes you're not listening. You're thinking of your next question for a second. You're organizing your thoughts for where it's going. It happens.
In my case, I just thought to myself, I missed it because I must have known what she meant. And so I didn't take it that way. And I wasn't thinking, oh, somebody's going to take it this way. And that's, I guess, maybe what happened, maybe. But that's really even saying that she said anything that should have been taken any differently. I want you to, first, here's what Media Matters said, and millions of hits on a short version, okay? Millions of stories that went out and have been passed by everybody on the left. That Nikki Haley said that she saw the Confederate flag as a flag of service, a flag of heritage, until what was his name?
Dylan Roof.
Dylan Roof goes into the church and shoots everybody, and then she sees it differently. Well, that's not what she said. Here is the actual audio from the podcast. If anybody wants to actually listen to it, a few outlets have retracted the story and corrected it. But here it is.
South Carolina fell to her knees when this happened. This is one of the oldest African-American churches. These 12 people were amazing people. They loved their church. They loved their family. They loved their community. And here is this guy that comes out with his manifesto holding the Confederate flag and had just hijacked everything that people thought of. And we don't have hateful people in South Carolina. There's always the small minority that's always going to be there. But, you know, people saw it as service and sacrifice and heritage. But once he did that, there was no way to overcome it. And the national media came in droves. They wanted to define what happened. They wanted to make this about racism. They wanted to make it about gun control. They wanted to make it about death penalty. And I really pushed off the national media and said there will be a time and place where we talk about this, but it is not now. We're going to get through the funerals. We're going to respect them. And then we will have that conversation. And we had a really tough few weeks of debate, but we didn't have riots. We had vigils. We didn't have protests. We had hugs. And the people of South Carolina stepped up and showed the world what it looks like to show grace and strength in the eyes of tragedy.
Okay, so here's how this is spun. Now listen to this. What she said was, look, South Carolina fell to its knees when that shooting happened. So she's first saying the people of South Carolina were humbled. Were so struck by what happened, they were humbled by it. And she said, some people, by saying people, she doesn't mean all, people saw that flag as service and sacrifice and heritage. Now, she said, we don't have hateful people. Yes, we do, of course, have. There's always a small number, a small minority of hateful people, but people saw that as sacrifice and heritage. Now, let me be really clear for all you imbeciles, not regular members, just the people who are being paid by George Soros at Media Matters to smear me and everybody else. The South was not about state rights. It was not about that. You can claim it all you want, but that's not what it was about. Period. It was about the expansion of slavery, not even just the holding on to slavery, but the expansion of slavery. Remember, we had the Missouri Compromise. We had the expansion of slavery out west was being told, no, you can't expand it out west. The South, the southern states, wanted this all the way down into Mexico. They wanted it out west, and they wanted it down to Mexico.
To be clear here, the reason why you know that is because you've seen in person the Confederate Constitution.
Yeah.
Which does, if it was about states' rights, would probably have given new states an out to not have slavery.
Yeah, you could join if you don't. You have the option.
Right. That's not what the Confederate Constitution did. Instead, it required everyone who joined the Confederacy to automatically have slavery, and it was required.
And before the expansion of slavery. So it wasn't enough that you were a slave-owning state. You had to agree with that. You had to be a slave-owning state, and you had to agree with the expansion of slavery. So it was not about heritage, and it was not about state rights. It wasn't about any of that. However, Stu, tell me what it turned into in the 1970s and 80s, the Confederate flag.
We all know this is started as something we fought a war over what it started as.
Yes.
However, these things, of course, do develop and change meanings over time. I mean, we can all acknowledge that we all watched on television a show with a Confederate flag on the side of an orange car jumping over things all the time. It was not seen as, wow, these guys are super mega extra racist. Wow, these guys are for slavery. These guys want to expand slavery all over the world.
It was the South.
It was the South. It became a symbol of just Southern pride. Right or wrong, and obviously, we know Nikki Haley's position on whether it was right or wrong. She removed it from the statehouse.
She also is an Indian American.
Yeah.
Okay? First generation American. She's an Indian who, in the interview, talked about the racism that she felt as a child. She was different. She was neither black nor white. She was another. She was in a beauty pageant as a kid. She wanted to join. They didn't have a category for her, so she was told to beat it, kid. I mean, here's a woman who, in the South, in South Carolina growing up, experienced racism. And then she says, look, that's not what it turned into. This flag was about heritage, but once Dylan Roof hijacked that and made sure everybody knew that was about racism, South Carolinians got rid of it. And she led the way.
Yeah. I mean, think about just what kind of garbage organization gets to work every day and says, you know what, let's take the Indian American governor of a southern state who is literally responsible for removing the Confederate flag, and let's say, it seems like she might have some white supremacist leanings. Let's just insinuate that and see what happens. And they imagine the country and the media that allows that to work, albeit for a short time. I mean, eventually they correct the stories later on, but still.
But nobody sees the corrections.
Right.
Nobody sees the corrections.
It's embarrassing. This is a pathetic tactic. How could anyone think this was going to work? And then it shows, too, and I will say, like, in Media Matters' very light defense here, they actually do include the part where she says she's not giving her own opinion. Now, they mislabel the tweets. They lie on the headlines. But the media is so pathetic, they don't even listen to the clip they pulled from your interview, let alone go back to the interview, let alone go back and hear the actual context. They listen only to Media Matters clip, and they don't even listen to the whole thing. They write on their headline. That is how pathetic your media is today. They didn't even bother to listen to the minute 20 clip that Media Matters pulled. They didn't even listen to it for themselves. That is an incredibly low bar to clear, and that is where the entire media seems to be living right now. And then they have to embarrassingly delete tweets and correct stories. How about spend 80 seconds listening to the damn clip before you write the story? How about going back, and I know this one's crazy, going back and listen to 5 minutes before this moment on the podcast and 5 minutes after? Is that a possibility? Something like that, where you'd actually at least get the very basic context of what was going on?
They don't have time to do that.
I know.
They don't have time to do that. And besides, it's behind a paywall. Oh no, on Saturday, it's open for everybody on YouTube.
Is it a legitimate request? Is it a legitimate excuse? Let me give you this. Is it a legitimate excuse for a media organization to say they can't subscribe to a website for $9, whatever we're charging? And by the way, 1 week free, I believe.
Yes.
You can't do that before you write a news story?
About the ambassador to the United Nations.
And the leader, probably, for the Republican nomination in 2024 as we stand right now.
Yeah, it's not worth $9 to you.
No.
I mean, you can get it for free.
Or $0. You just have to sign up.
For free. I mean, that's crazy.
At least Media Matters subscribes.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. I think they do.
I'm sure they must.
Yeah. So here's the thing. You can get it at blazetv.com/Glenn. Your support is more than welcome. It is really, really appreciated and needed. But if you want to watch it for free, you can watch it for free. It's out now on YouTube. Just go to the Glenn Beck or Blaze. Oh, it's right here. Go to, youtube.com/Glenn Beck, and you'll be able to get that for free and listen to it. She's amazing. She's amazing. And I'm sorry, Nikki, that it was this show that caused you any kind of consternation over this weekend. But we did our job. You did your job. The media, as always, fails to do theirs.